Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Shubh, and today we're diving into a fundamental concept in JavaScript, asynchronous programming. Specifically, we'll be talking about callbacks, promises, and async await. These are essential tools in any JavaScript developer's toolkit, and by the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of how and when to use each one. So, let's get started. Okay, so before we jump into the specifics, let's quickly define what we mean by asynchronous programming. In a synchronous program, tasks are executed one after the other, meaning each task has to wait for the previous one to complete before it can start. But in JavaScript, which is single-threaded, this can lead to performance issues, especially when dealing with tasks like network requests or reading files, because these tasks take time. That's where asynchronous programming comes in. It allows these tasks to run in the background, freeing up the main thread to handle other tasks. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so let's start writing some code. Let's start with the callbacks first, the OG of asynchronous programming in JavaScript. Okay, so what is a callback? A callback is simply a function passed as an argument to another function, which is then executed after the first function has completed. So let's write some code to understand that. Let's create a function and let's call it fetch data. Okay, and to mimic the network request, let's use set timeout and give it a time of 2 seconds. And let's just print a statement and say data fetched. Okay, now if you simply just call this, what will happen is it'll just print data fetched after 2 seconds. You see, took some time and printed data fetched. Okay, I've increased the font size if you can't read it. Now, so as I stated earlier, that a callback is simply a function passed as an argument to another function, which is then executed after the first function has completed, right? So what we need to do is we'll pass a function as an argument to fetch data, and let's just print a statement and let's just say callback executed. Okay, now you'll need to receive that function parameter here, and after you do that, you'll need to call that, okay, to execute this part. If you don't do this, you'll still get data fetched after 2 seconds. Okay, but if you call this, what will happen is, and bonus points for guessing the correct answer. So after 2 seconds, you get data fetched and then you get callback executed. So in this example, fetch data simulates fetching data from a server, and once it's done, it executes the callback function we passed in. Simple, but it can quickly get messy as you get more callbacks, a phenomenon known as a callback hell. I'll share the resources for you to read about what a callback hell is. Now let's move to promises. To solve the issues with callbacks, which is readability, JavaScript introduced promises. A promise represents a value that may not be available yet, but will be resolved or rejected at some point in the future. Okay, so here's how you can use a promise to clean up that callback code. Okay, so you see it becomes a little messy and becomes hard to read as well. So what we need to do is let's create a function again. Let's call it fetch data, and you'll need to memorize this syntax of creating a promise, and a promise takes 2 arguments, which is resolve and reject. Okay, now say set timeout again, and let's say 2 seconds, and again we'll just print a statement saying data fetched, and after you're done, you'll say resolved. Resolve, not resolved. Okay, and then let's just call fetch data. Okay, so how you actually execute a promise? What you need to do is say then, and now you pass a function that you want to execute after the fetch data is called, and you say just you just give it a message that promise resolved, or you just catch it here, you catch for any error, okay? And you say, let's just copy this, and you say promise rejected. Now bonus points for guessing the answer again. So let's see, node and promises, and you get the output as data fetch and promise resolved. If you don't resolve it and if you get any error, or you just say simply reject it, again bonus points for guessing the correct answer. You'll get data fetched as and the promise rejected, as you can see here. Okay, as you can see, promises make the code more readable, and with then and catch we can easily handle success and error cases. Now let's talk about async await, okay, which is like the icing on the cake for promises. Async await allows you to write asynchronous code that actually looks synchronous, okay, making it even easier to read and manage. Okay, so let's write some code again. Now let's create a function. Let's call it fetch data. Okay, and now this is the syntax for that. So you use the await function, await keyword, and let's just say, and again we're just trying to mimic the network request, nothing else. Okay, and say resolve it after 2 seconds. Okay, now you see it's giving me an error, and that's because whenever you want to execute a statement that has await, okay, you have to put async before your function name. Okay, so you need to write async, then your syntax, the usual one that you've learned, and well, that's it. And let's just print a statement, and again let's say data fetched. Okay, and again let's write a main function. Let's call it main. Yes, and now we need to call this fetch data. So whenever you want to call an asynchronous function, you need to write await. Okay, and well, and again if you do not put async here, you'll get error. It's done. Let's print another statement, and let's say async await in action or something like that. Okay, now you need to call this main. So again bonus points for guessing the right answer, not the promises. We need to run the async await, and you see we get data fetched, and again it's after 2 seconds. You can remove this if you want. We're just trying to mimic the network request, so you get the output just in a second, less than a second actually. Okay, well if you again put it, you'll see a slight delay. Okay, so now we get data fetched, and after the data is fetched, you see you get async await in action. So this is how easy it is with async await. In this example, the fetch data function waits for the promise to resolve before logging data fetched, right? And the main function, which calls the fetch data, waits for it to finish before proceeding and printing this. You see, no then chaining, just clean code, readable, more than understandable for people like me, people like you who are just starting with JavaScript. Although I'm fairly experienced in JavaScript, but I still find the callbacks and promises really hard to understand and even read sometimes. So when should you use callbacks, promises, or async await? This is the main question. Okay, so callbacks are great for simple tasks but can get out of hand quickly. Promises are a step up from callbacks, providing better readability and error handling. And async await is perfect when you want your code to be as readable as possible, especially in more complex scenarios. Okay, so to wrap things up, understanding these 3 approaches will give you the I would say flexibility to handle asynchronous tasks in JavaScript efficiently. I'd recommend playing around with all 3 in your projects to see how they work for you. And if you have any questions or want to see more examples, drop a comment below. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your fellow developer friends, and subscribe for more content like this. See you guys in the next one.